One of the things that I've learned through this is you hear a lot of these business books will say about find something that you're really good at, something that you already have experience in, something that you enjoy doing, and just go with that. Don't try to be well-rounded. Find what your niche is and really go after that. And there was this book written a few years ago called Strength Finders or Strength Builders 3.0 or something like that. And they had interviewed all of these different CEOs and COOs, and what they were discovering was a common thread among all of them was that they weren't really good at a lot of things, but they were really good at this one thing, and they really went after that. And what I've learned is when you're going after something that you love doing, you'll be up at 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. still working and absolutely love it, and everybody else is asleep, you know? You'll put in 12, 14. When I was working in the film industry, we were putting in 18 hours a day, but I really liked it, you know, so I didn't mind. You know, of course you're going to crash eventually, but no one was asking us to work 18 hours 4 or 5 days in a row. But there are times when that was required of us. I remember one time we worked 22 hours, you know. And what's great about it is you are also moving along with other people that are doing the same thing. So when I stopped introducing myself to people as a teacher, which I still did even after I stopped teaching, people were like, well, what do you do? And I was like, well, I'm a teacher. When I stopped doing that and I started telling people that I was a writer, suddenly doors started opening. Oh, you're a writer? Well, my great uncle works at HarperCollins, or my nephew just did his internship at Penguin Books as an editor. Or, oh, my best friend, she lives in New York and her roommate is an editor at such and such. I'm a lot happier now, but it's still very, very hard. Like, writing and being a career writer, it's like starting your own business, because you have the product, which is the art, and then after you create the art, your job can't be done, because if it is, you're not going to be successful. You know, a lot of artists, they just want to write, they want to get it done, they want to move on. You can't. 25% is creating a quality product, which could take years, it took me 8 years. So when you create the art, it is now a product, and now you have to turn it into a business person. And 75% is now marketing, branding, and not making foolish decisions in the business world. And the only way you can make sure that you don't make foolish decisions is by talking to professional business people who do this kind of stuff for a living. So I took a chance, and I read, going back to the business aspect of things, I read this business book, and the guy said, give it 2 years. If you're not making money, or if you don't have a client within your first 2 years, maybe you should look at doing something different. And I was getting projects immediately, but I had to do it for free because I was doing the internship. And then as soon as I got out of the screenwriting and producing internship, I was getting film jobs, but I was at the bottom of the totem pole. I was getting coffee. I remember going to Walmart at 2 a.m. to get doggy treats for a dog actor, you know. Here I was, 30 years old and working alongside 19 and 20-year-olds scrubbing toilets and getting coffee for executives. But I did it, you know. I knew I had to if I wanted to get where I was wanting to go. But as soon as I got past that and people started realizing that, hey, this guy is just starting off in film, but he's educated, he's more experienced, he's been out there for a while, they started giving me more responsible projects. And I remember I was still kind of wondering whether or not I should continue, but right at 1 year and 11 months, right around that mark, I got a position on a film, and when that job ended, I didn't have to worry about money for another 3 months. Like, that's how much money I made, where I was able to live off, to do whatever I wanted to do for 3 months until I would run out of, living money. And I don't mean paycheck to paycheck. Like, I was able to put, I always put money back in savings and retirement and all that. So whenever I made that kind of money after 1 year and 11 months, I realized that I needed to stick with it. And then the novel exploded, and then, they flew me out to Beverly Hills, and publishers were coming after me. And that's when I think that's really when I realized that I was growing, was that when a major publishing house comes to you and says, we will give you $40,000 for this, and you say no, not because you're being arrogant, but because you know that this over here is better, that's when I knew that. When I was saying no to people who 5 years ago I wouldn't have batted out, I would have signed the dotted line without even reading the contract. When I started saying no and started paying more close attention to what I was signing up for, that's when I knew that I was doing well. And there are people that they have no other choice but to do this job based on where they are geographically and their economic situation. But if you do have a choice, and if you do have the freedom to try new things, then why do you want to spend the next however many years of your life doing this thing that you don't like, when I think life is to be celebrated? I think we're supposed to be enjoying our time here. I believe that that is God's gift to us. Like, try to enjoy yourself, like love life, have a good time, It's all about perspective. And I just didn't want to spend the rest of my life doing something that I didn't enjoy. Like, it wasn't one of those things, it was like, oh, it's okay. No, I did not like it. And here I was in a fantastic PhD program in California. And I realized I was so far, I'd been working toward this for 4 or 5 years, and I almost just went on. And what I decided was, if I failed, if it didn't work out, failure is not failure. Failure is just realizing what doesn't work, all right? So when I thought to myself, well, if I fall, if it doesn't work out, then I'll just go back to teaching until I can figure out a new way to do it, I'll go back. Like, I knew that I wanted to write, and I knew I wanted to be an author, and I wanted to produce films and write films. So it was like, okay, if this doesn't work out, I can go back to teaching until I figure out a different approach. And one of the things that, throughout my life, one of the things I've always liked asking elderly people is if you could go back to your 20s, or if you could go back to being a teenager and you could live your life again, what are some things that you would ensure that you would do? What are some things you would make sure you would do? What are things that you've regretted? Every single one of them said 2 things. There were 2 common things that all of them would always say. They said that they wish they'd spent more time loving people, and they wish they'd taken more risks. One lady said, I remember one lady in particular saying, she wished she hadn't worried so much about money. But I understand why we worry about that, because that's livelihood. But those were the 2 common things. I wish I'd spent more time loving people, and I wish I'd taken more risks. And to me, I knew that this was going to be a big risk. Drop out of this PhD program and pursue something you're not even sure is going to work out. But if I hadn't talked to the elderly people and the sages, the grandfathers, and asked them, I probably would never have done it.